Right now I'm walking with Brice Mitchell-Williams.
Ooh.
Brice, where are we? Wilshire?
Yes.
Land of the skyscrapers right here, the condos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we're about to enter the Westwood Memorial Park or cemetery. Bryson and cemetery, how do you feel about that?
I think I'm more concerned about being haunted by the ghost of a parking maid, but I think we'll be okay. I'm going to be brave.
On today's episode of Hollyweird Paranormal, Brice Mitchell-Williams gets haunted by a parking maid in Westwood? That would be a great episode, wouldn't it? But actually, it's even better. Brice tours a cemetery with me, guys. Yes, you heard that right. Brice actually takes a walking tour with myself and paranormal investigator Patrick Langdon through one of the most famous cemeteries in Los Angeles, the Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery. This tiny cemetery that is the resting place to big stars is actually sequestered in a little area known as Westwood, which is near UCLA. So who are the famous stars that are laid to rest within this cemetery? Well, here's just a few. Marilyn Monro, Kirk Douglas, Donna Reed, Farrah Fawcett, Dorothy Stratten, Truman Capote, Rodney Dangerfield, Natalie Wood, Dean Martin, Jack Lemmon, and even Doris Roberts. Join us as we walk through the Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery, and join us as we sit down with Patrick Langdon as we discuss some of his most memorable and most terrifying investigations. Everything from the Queen Mary to the Cecil Hotel, even the infamous Sallie House located in Atchison, Kansas. All right, so grab your most comfortable shoes, your fanny pack, and of course, bring a bottle of water and your camera as you join us for our walking tour through Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery as we sit down and talk to paranormal investigator Patrick Langdon. Let's get Hollyweird with the dead famous. Hey friends, we just wanted to put out this little disclaimer that this episode was recorded outdoors in real time. So you're going to hear a lot of outside noise pollution. That's just the way it is in Los Angeles. Anywhere you go, it's rarely ever quiet, especially off of Wilshire Blvd in Westwood. So of course, you're going to hear the friendly noise of the leaf blower, and of course, the common occurrence that you hear every single day in the city, the fire truck sirens. So please disregard those noises and enjoy the rest of the episode as you take a virtual walking tour with us, an audio walking tour with us, with Patrick and myself and Brice through one of the most beautiful cemeteries, the most famous cemetery, Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery. We also wanted to dedicate this episode in memory of Joe Bramo and those who were taken away from us way too soon. Now let's get Hollyweird.
Guys, I don't know how to explain this to you, but I had this wonderful walking tour plan at Westwood Memorial Cemetery. And Brice, I don't know how to explain this, but Brice is here with me.
Oh, hello there. Me in a cemetery.
Gasp. But at least it's 3:30 in the afternoon.
I know. There was actually, it's so funny. There was a minute where I thought, does she mean 3:30 in the morning? Because it's a no from me. And you're like, okay, see you this afternoon. I was like, great, I'll be there. Daytime ghosts only.
So you get to experience Brice's experience in a cemetery. So Brice, do you know anything about the Westwood Memorial?
Just like a vague LA knowledge of it. Like I've been by it, but I personally have never been.
Well, we are teaming up with one of our listeners and fellow paranormal investigator, motorcycle James Dean aficionado, and photographer Patrick Langdon.
Yes.
You guys probably have seen him if you guys follow Ghost Adventures, but I believe he was on the Cecil Hotel episode, and he does discount like an experience he had in the hotel, which was pretty intense. But he has investigated all around the U.S. And of course, he knows the Westwood Memorial Cemetery like the back of his hand.
Crazy.
Do you know who else might be buried there?
The Marilyn Monroe?
The Marilyn Monro. Yes, the one and only. Yes, Norma Jean, the OG blonde. So she's buried there along with Rodney Dangerfield and even Eva Gabor and Dean Martin and Natalie Wood.
Just those old so-and-sos.
Yeah, just a few of them. So I'm surprised. Do you have trunkless on? No, they're closed toes.
I wish. I know. I know. Chocolate free today. But I do have my
Starbucks.
So
and I got you a bottle of water.
Oh, so sweet.
And I also have some snacks too. Mama needed sugar because I had, as you guys know, I just got back from a Joanne's trip. And when you see a soccer mom fighting for the last roll of light blue, baby blue tulle, it's on.
It's
right?
prom season, isn't it? I just
It's
realized.
true. It's true.
I've been following, this is so silly, but I've been following like prom court reveal TikTok, and it is, I mean, I went to prom 4 years in a row. So like I thought that I had like done prom. Like I've been on the planning committee. I've been as an attendee. Like I've done all the things you can do with prom. This is like next level. Like the Oscars could never. It's
Really?
oh my God, yes. Some of these people have to be spending, I'm not exaggerating, $20,000 on their prom. Like it has to be.
Yeah.
With the car rentals and the tux matching and
I
the
can't
dresses and the
imagine.
hair and the makeup. Like, and they look incredible. Like, don't get me wrong, but it is like a whole, and you know I love like a Southern pageant moment.
Oh my God, yes.
But like, so all of that to say, I bet you're fighting for your life in Joanne's
Yeah,
right
you
now.
want to know what the real horror is besides the housing market is Joanne's on a Friday afternoon.
No, ma'am. No,
Yes.
thank you.
And then it's like an Eli Roth movie on a Sunday morning. So there you go. All right, guys.
Yeah. It's too real, yes.
I know. The living
Yeah.
is much to be feared. All right. Well, you ready?
Yeah,
Let's turn on this car and let's go, guys. Let's go to Westwood and hang out with Patrick. Hey friends, so Brice and I have finally found a spot here after we've graciously and loudly embraced Patrick in front of a memorial.
As you do.
As we do. Yes, we finally found it. Guys, welcome Patrick Langdon to our podcast. Patrick, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast. We've been following each other on social media. I remember first meeting you electronically on Instagram and then seeing your face in action in one of the Ghost Adventures videos. But you're not only a photographer, a motorcycle and James Dean aficionado, but you're a California boy.
Yes, I'm local, born and raised, and I must say it's great to meet up face to face with you guys. I mean, it's, you know, I listen to the podcast, big fan. You know, I've listened to pretty much all of them. I have a place out in Johnson Valley, a cabin, a homesteader cabin, and I do a lot of back and forth. It's a 2.5 hour drive, and just listening to all the podcasts are great. But it's here we are. You know, we're in Westwood Memorial Park, and
It is a place where the stars are literally laid to rest. We are surrounded by a lot of famous people. Patrick, you're also a paranormal investigator, and you're very knowledgeable about the dead and the dead famous. So tell us who's buried here and your connection to the cemetery and the paranormal. We want to know all about your journey.
Okay. Yeah. So let me just kind of introduce this place and what it means to me. I mean, just because I have family here. I have extended, family. Two of my great aunt and great uncle are buried here. He was a landscape architect. Richard Williams, and my aunt Molly is here. And also back in, I think it was 80 or 81 when Natalie Wood, the tragedy in Catalina, and she's buried here. My mom used to work here. She actually kind of coordinated all of the services for Natalie, and
Oh
RJ.
my God.
So yeah, I mean, I wasn't here that time when she was, working, but she was, like a secretary, administrative assistant, and she is originally from England, so she's from London, so she never lost the accent, and this is kind of like a family. It's weird. And I work down, a couple miles away or really close by in the village. So
Wait, so let me get this straight. You travel 2 hours to work here too, and then you just travel?
no, I walked. I walked. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wonderful! That's a great way to
Yeah,
get your
I'm
stuff.
over on at UCLA, so UCLA is like a mile away or whatever. Yeah, so it was like, hey guys, But yeah, so it's just this place has a kind of a near and dear, also one of my motorcycle, brothers is buried here, Joe Bramo, and it's we pay tribute every anniversary for Joey. He was only 40. It wasn't a motorcycle accident. It was a health kind of issue. But we celebrate his life, just like we celebrate the lives of our families and people we love. And a lot of celebrities obviously are here to visit. Marilyn Monro, Hugh Hefner. It's quite notable, as far as. But it's beautiful grounds, isn't it? Today's Earth Day, so it's sunny.
In downtown, it's such it's so quiet. I'm shocked at how quiet it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're kind of in a nook. We're near Joey. It's kind of on the south side of you have the mausoleum to the right. You have the chapel to our left, and then you have the crypts, around. So, and then a small kind of grassy area where the original part. I think this was expanded out. Obviously, it looks newer. So yeah, that just kind of I thought it'd be an interesting place for us to meet here and talk paranormal.
Yeah.
It's perfection, and people are wondering how Brice is processing all this in
I
the
know.
cemetery.
Yeah. Deep breathing.
Have you guys done podcasts from cemeteries like Hollywood Forever before and stuff? Or okay, do you
No.
not like them, Brice?
No.
Okay, it's
I
like,
actually find them
okay,
fine
okay, all right.
compared to other
Okay.
paranormal places, we'll say. I would much prefer to be outside always.
Yes.
Especially between the hours of 12 and,
Yeah,
and 5.
that far,
before
yeah, yeah.
sundown, right?
Before sundown.
Exactly.
Obviously.
Right. Yeah, this is a very positive, beautiful, cemetery where family are here. So we're celebrating their lives. And so, how do you want to delve in from
Yeah.
what got me into the paranormal, or
How about this, Patrick?
what do you?
Patrick, we always ask this of all of our guests.
Okay.
What was your first paranormal experience?
That would be going back to 2006 when I was living in Topanga Canyon. That was something I was renting a home back then, and it was an old historic place that really had a vibe to it. And I just moved in. It was in past the village, and it was basically, a rental. I work at UCLA. It was a great commute. And things just started happening where, and my girlfriend at the time would be visiting, and you would hear kind of whispered voices, but I didn't really kind of think about it. I didn't address it or acknowledge it. It was just this is kind of something that was happening. And then my girlfriend at the time, she saw a full-figured person in the bedroom, an old man, and that was something that was obviously very shocking for her, and to relate that to me, and it was, I asked her to describe, and wow, that's really strange. This is a 1920s original craftsman, home in Topanga, in the canyon there, and it was just an odd thing. And then it wasn't until I moved out, actually. This is back 2006, 2007, that I was just getting everything packed out, and the owner said, "Hey, by the way, I didn't tell you this when you moved in." But 2 people passed away here in this
Wonderful.
house. Yeah, and he goes into details. He's saying that, it was an older couple. He was smoking a cigarette. He fell asleep. The drapes caught on fire. She was in the master bedroom, sleeping, and he was out in the living room. And I would smell like smoke sometimes in the place. But he's like, I didn't want to freak you out and tell you when you first moved in. But that got something in my head where I'm like, there's, this phenomena. There's something to it. I mean, I grew up, my mom's from England. She's into spiritualism, all that kind of stuff. So I grew up with this, lectures at UCLA and all that kind of stuff. But I never really kind of was thinking, what is this? What is, all this about? So I joined and actually helped form LAPRG, which back then was Los Angeles Paranormal Research Group. Mike Gonzalez. So he got a lot of equipment, and we started just getting a team together and investigating. So that was obviously the first one. I'm like, let's see what's going on. Let's get some data. Let's figure out what's up, with all this. And that's how it started,
That is so astonishing. Like, right when you needed, like, whodietinmyhouse.com to come about, right? Oh my gosh. And for a full body apparition account is the strongest account to go by.
Absolutely.
So what ended up happening after that? Did you guys stay there for another long period of time, or you're like, we're going to peace out, we're just going to leave?
Yeah, it was right at 2008, right before the crash. And basically the owner was selling it, so I had to find another place, and I ended up moving to Santa Monica. And that was just a regular, there was nothing really too spooky about that. But yeah, I would have stayed. I mean, I love the canyon. There's a certain vibe and just energy in like Laurel Canyon, Topanga Canyon, Beverly Glen. It just, I love those places, So yeah, I would have stayed, but just circumstance and that whole fiasco in 2008 with the mortgage lending, that whole thing, it wasn't so good. But yeah, that's what it was. So that was our first group, that I was involved. And then later we were involved in forming another group when I lived in Venice. I live in Venice now. It's my third time back in Venice. And I was, just like, remember meetup.com? Like, so it was just, some girls, Heidi and Sandy and some other friends were like, let's do a meetup. They posted a meetup and like some other friends went and they were like, they wanted to form a group, investigate and take this seriously. It's not just like we're going around and getting scared, but that happens with a lot of people anyway, right? It's kind of part of the allure for sometimes. But yeah, we were just, investigating, the scary area at the old CSU, campus, up north, and residential. We had, LAPRG, we actually had a lot, mostly residential requests. We investigated, actually hauntings or all types of more, by clients, people who just got in touch with us. With Shoreline Paranormal, with our group, we did just, what was available, and, we missed Linda Vista. That would have been neat. I don't know if you ever got to Linda Vista Hotel, the old hospital.
Brice, that's a no. That's a hard no for
me. I don't like hospitals anyway.
Yeah, right, okay. But yeah, that was something else. But we got to, dozens of other locations, and so that was the second. And then I found in 2008, 2009, I met up with Tim Wood with LiveSciFi, and Tim and I, and others have been investigating with LiveSciFi for years, all around the country, and that was just taking it up another notch. But Tim's style, and this is something interesting, is like provoking. I was more, let's get data, let's, see what's environmentally around. I'm not like challenging it, like, go for it kind of thing. Before I joined LiveSciFi, then that changed the whole kind of dynamic, you could say. And that was pretty intense, just over the years, all the Sallie House and all the places we've gone, and just seeing how it affected Tim, how it affected us, and, legit like Class A's. Motorcycle, if you want to cut that.
Oh, we already warned everyone.
Outside. Yeah.
The last interview I had, we had the infamous leaf blower. So we're
okay. Yeah. It's actually Joey on his bike. He's just saying hi. It's our VBMC member. It's here. So yeah, he's just like here. But so that's what I've been doing for the past like 10, 12 years. Working with Tim, and we have a team, and just really delving in. And just, it's the only thing that I'm really concerned is, I'll just bring it out, like attachments. You go to places that have really bad histories and imprints, and that's something, and Tim provokes, and like, hey, I don't want stuff following me home. It's sound as strange as that sounds. I remember the first time I went to Sallie House, like 2010 or something like that.
This is the one in
Atchison, Kansas. Yeah.
So this is the one I'm going to be traveling to, guys, in late June.
Yep.
Did you have to sign a waiver too?
Yeah, I mean, we know the owner and we've been there dozens of times. Yeah, the basement is pretty interesting. There's a lot of history there. There's some, it's urban legend, but there's definitely things that are there.
Yeah.
And there's been ritualistic practices there. Yeah, I come from another background in photography, as you say, and so I really like to get imaging data, and we would, just get a lot of voice, phenomena, EVP. We do spirit box, all the, traditional kind of methods, but I wanted to get visuals, just really capture. So I did a lot of, Polaroid photography and things like that down there, and that was interesting.
I noticed with the Sallie House, it's a lot of EVPs that are captured there, and I guess you can say like spooky vibes, but we have to ask the big question: has anyone besides the owners back in the 90s who had the full body apparition
The
account?
Pickmans,
Yeah, the Pickmans. Has anyone seen anything of a full body apparition of a little girl or the old hag, apparently?
We haven't seen, I think it's kind of the story has been developed, like here's Sallie, and she played with Sallie and all that kind of thing. And it was like a botched appendicitis operation, Dr. Finney, and all this kind of stuff, the owners there. But we have not personally, so it's not Sallie that you're communicating with there, in my opinion, that's there.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I
there's
agree.
definitely malevolent spirits and entities, and if you want to call them demons, whatever the nomenclature you want to call them, there's a bad vibe in there, in certain areas. And from my experience, it's like cat and mouse. It just, it moves around, and it's, yeah, it's something, but you can't just dismiss it as like, oh, this is all, just you're creating all this, because we've had significant, hits where on like Ghostbox, and it'll say kill Patrick, or certain things that, when it's scanning, they can't say bad words on like AM/FM radio, right? And certain things, and a lot of very specific things have come through, So yeah, it's a wild place. You're gonna enjoy that,
I always feel that places like that, because of its popularity, and we're going to kind of segue into it, like, say, for example, the Cecil Hotel.
Yeah.
I definitely want to ask you about the Cecil Hotel. I'm sure everyone who's listening is like, we'll talk about the Cecil Hotel.
Yeah.
You feel like, because places like that get hit so much by not only investigators, but also urban explorers and YouTubers, the social media characters, that they get exacerbated. The atmosphere gets exacerbated, and you feel like either it loses its luster, or more weirder things, more malevolent things come in. Like, what is your opinion on that?
I think it's a mix. I think people bring in certain elements to it. It definitely has a lot of history for crime. I mean, I know that firsthand, because, I used to be a reserve police photographer. I've been there on the job before, it was Stay on Main and got rebranded and all that. I've been on what they call death investigations, and that's when you don't know if it's a homicide or if it's an overdose. It's a death investigation when it's not so clear cut. And yeah, that had kind of, obviously, in my 20s when I was doing that, and it had a very profound impact, just of going inside in the Cecil when it was in its heyday, you could call it, and you have 2 serial killers, verified who stayed there, and there's a lot of, just bad events, bad things that have happened in there, and I think other people would bring that in to perpetuate, sometimes, with bad intent, bad intentions, things like that. Other people just, Lisa Lam, the really famous case, she was not getting along with a lot of the roommates. A lot of the documentation you see in documentaries and things, that people, investigators who were, the homicide, RHD, robbery homicide, and you see first firsthand what was going on in her mindset. I mean, there was a lot of problems, and disturbances, and it's a very strange and eerie case, because it's not so, well, it's definitely this or it's that. There's a lot of just bad mojo in that place, and I think how it affected her, when she came to LA, she seemed fine, but then, it's in Skid Row. I mean, it's a bad place. They have the Last Bookstore, which is awesome. it's just like, close by, but she wasn't getting along with a lot of the other girls, like in a dormitory kind of setting, and they put her in her own room, and I think she had an episode and all that. But how did she know there was tanks up on the roof or get access up there? And that was something else. But it was, and Tim and I investigated there. We were the first group to go in after that happened.
When it comes to the Cecil, it's one of those places where it's this constant question I always have in my head anytime I go to a location. Is it us that impacts the environment, or the environment impacts us? And for you, like, what do you believe it has towards, people that come and visit?
I think actually, if you want to call it like a flow, it's both ways. I think it impacts us because you're absorbing the environment, but then also your, maybe past experiences and that kind of is introduced. So I think it's kind of a ebb and flow, and I've had direct experiences there investigating, and then before when I was working with the police department, as far as homicides investigations, or it's probably the most, I've been to hundreds if not thousands of crime scene homicides and all different, worked with SWAT and bomb squad, just did a lot of different kind of things. So they wanted me to become a full-time photographer there, and I was working here at UCLA. I used to be a CT tech, x-rays, that's how I started out. And I'm like, I like this as reserve because I worked at night. I worked in the old Parker Center before it became, and then they raised it, and we all moved to Piper Tech, which is, where the helicopters are and all that. And you want to hear a story about Piper Tech?
Sure.
That's okay. So, Parker Center. Parker Center was the old glass house. It was a famous style of architecture. It was built in, I think, 55. And that was the old police administration building, PAB. So you had, the photo lab. You had SID. I worked in SID, which is Scientific Investigation Division. Polygraph, firearms, photos, latent print. And we were all there, on different floors. And the chief of police is there. And, it's an old building. We were one of the last labs to leave, period. Everybody else moved out. And we were there, and it was, I love, obviously, history, old buildings, architecture, all that kind of stuff. And I worked nights. So I'd be there, late at night, going out in the field, working the lab.
Yeah.
And a couple experiences I had there were, I'm in what they call the order room. That's where, the phones are, and they take, you're writing down orders to go out in the field and calls. And I'm there doing an order, and there's a hallway kind of in front of me, and on the left, I see a movement of something or someone coming up on my left side. You're kind of peripheral vision, and I think, oh, it's another photographer. It's like, hey, so I turn around, there's nobody there, but I distinctly had that, and I was just working. I wasn't, kind of preoccupied just with that, and so that was odd. And I talked to some of the other photographers who worked what they call AM shift. There's day watch, there's, at that time, and then there's PMs and AMs. So you have all those different shifts. And the AM photographers, which is the latest shift, goes into early wee hours in the morning. He's in one of those little, into the rooms there, printing, working on an order. And the door is kind of closed, but not all the way, where it's a big hallway, tons of negatives and, all these file cabinets and things. And you have light coming through that crack of the door. And he's there. He's the only one, a lot of times you're the only one there working, right? Mm-hmm. And he sees a shadow cross over that maybe half-inch, door jam where you have like the light coming through. So he's like, oh, great. There's another photographer back. I can take a break or something, because, you're a lot of times you're just there working. And he goes around, does a full sweep. There's nobody there. So I think maybe some of the photographers, and people who passed away or someone, there's a lot of connections with that. And he, Chase is his name, and is Korean American, and he was pretty freaked out. He did not want to be there at night, and he's working that late shift, the late shift, So we had a lot of just, those experiences there. in the jail, the old jail. We actually did with Shoreline investigation there of the old jail and the old locker rooms and all the cells. And first thing we get downstairs, we get to the locker room area. There's a paper like coat hanger, and it says Parker Center Jail is haunted, and that was our first. And obviously we didn't leave it there. So, and it's off limits to everybody else. It's it's all locked and stuff. And I had access, but it was creepy. They had this sound kind of proof rooms. Charlie Manson was there. Definitely Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
Oh my God, it's so weird how it all just like kind of ties in together here.
I always say though, LA is the biggest little town. Everything here is so like interwoven. Yes, there's millions of people here, but it is the smallest town mindset. Like everyone knows everybody. Everyone's been to all the same places. It's so crazy. Like, of course they were there. Like, of course.
It's 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So, just all these past experiences and interests, and here we are.
Here we are,
Yeah.
bringing the paranormal peeps together.
Yeah.
So, tell me something too. You had a very interesting experience at the Cecil that you explained on an episode of Ghost Adventures, and I don't mean to
Partially explained. They cut part of it out. I'll tell you the details.
Frank.
Wow.
What do they call it? The Franken edit or something, where they just kind of edit words together. But I know like all of our listeners are always like, talk more about the Cecil. Talk more about the Cecil. But I remember seeing that episode with you, and it really, really hit you hard.
It did. Yeah. It was so. Just kind of giving a little context. Tim and I investigated Lisa Lamb's room. We did, a board session. Scott Michaels, I invited Scott. And so we were there the whole night. We booked that room. Basically, when Zach, came in, if you get footage, Really said they own it. So the tie-in with LiveSciFi and our investigation maybe wasn't clear to the audience. But what happened was that morning, at like 5 a.m, so Tim and I are there. We've been investigating all night. Got amazing EVPs, a lot of hits on the board, and that's on YouTube as well. But I felt something, and this is what I'm relating to Zach in the episode, something like just on my throat, and it's like sleep paralysis. You cannot move, but you're awake. It's not like you're in between wake and sleep or whatever, that kind of twilight part. And I like reached over and I was trying to gasp, and Tim's like, snoring or something. He's like, and I'm trying to get his attention. He's like, I felt really, what are you going to do? You can't breathe. And that's what I was relaying to Zach. So Zach gave me his recorder, his 60. Tim uses the same recorder. Gets really great EVPs. It's really amazing. And I go into her room, and they're at Nerve Center down the hall. And I just was trying to communicate what was there, but I did not want to provoke. I wasn't like, okay, who the fuck is in here? I'm going to go, like, I'm trying to get, just
things not to do.
No, it's, I might provoke in other locations, Sallie, or other things, but I made a conscious decision based on, previous history. I did not want to provoke there. I mean, even thinking about it, it gets me kind of. I did not want to come face to face with what energy was there, and it wasn't Elisa. I didn't feel any of that. It was a very dark. It was something that grabbed my throat. That wasn't obviously Elisa Lam. I don't think, that was. It was something a lot darker. I'm not saying it was any of the two serial killers, but it got my attention, and I did not want to provoke them. But we played back the EVP when Zach and I were listening. We played the recorder back, and we heard a male voice clear as day. Wow. So that was, made it because of time, and they have to all the bunch of people. They had to cut that. Another interesting thing was when I first went in the room, and I'm showing, the crew, Zach and other investigators, and I've said, we go over to the faucet, and we turn on the faucet, and brown water comes out. It's rust. It's not, but those people that were there for 2 weeks drinking, Lisa Lamb's,
Fluids.
Yeah, it's decomp is pretty bad, and that was something else. It made a great visual on camera because it was still like that, just rusty water. But I didn't, purposely want to provoke, but it had a very strong impact on me there.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what you see in the episode and how it ties in.
People believe that it's one of the most haunted hotels in Los Angeles. I don't agree because I mean, unless there's a full body apparition account, we have to go by it.
Absolutely.
There's a Best Western in the Valley that's 1,000 times more haunted, but it's in the Valley, so nobody cares. Yeah. That's just the fact. I don't know how to explain it to people, but
we know the documentation of homicides and suicides, a lot of transients, drug use, and just a lot of problems, and still are. It's been opened up, I think, as like a transitional housing.
Yes.
They're trying to they've already, I think, opened it up. I'd like to get a room there. Investigate or something.
I remember in a video that that Scott Michaels was doing for his YouTube, he mentioned like this hotel would actually make a lot of bank if it was like for the dark tourists, if it really ran a dark tourism business here, because people really want to go spend the night and see Richard Ramirez. But
if you had a camera, if you go around with your iPhone or something, or a legit camera, security is on you like immediately. Right. So you had to be super stealth. We went all over the place, just like the Queen Mary. When I was investigating, we went the whole ship, and we got we got full access without approval or official access.
I'm going to show you a couple pictures.
Okay.
Patrick, since you're a photographer. So these haven't been shown yet, but you're going to get full access to them. So I have a friend, her name is Sherry. She lives in the Pocket. She's an investigator. I'm going to give her props of Grave Seekers Paranormal. Now, this was not taken by her. Since you mentioned the Queen Mary.
Many times I've been there, yeah.
We're going to talk about it because I want to know your experiences and what you dug up there. But she was a part of this tour with a friend of hers, and the friend had a digital camera. They went by the boiler room, which is one of the most active rooms. And in this picture, she said that no one was coming out of this room, but it turned out that there was a full body apparition in a sequence of 3 photos that her friend captured. So I'm going to show them to you. And I can't show them right away, guys. I can't post them because they will be posted soon through another user. But I want your opinion on them. So I'm going to show you these pictures really quick. Here they are. Okay. This is the first one, and Bryce, you could see it too. Hold on.
When was this taken? Just how recent was this image?
So this was back in the early 2000s. I can't really specifically give you the precise year. This was during an evening tour. Okay. It was kind of like one of their, like, I don't know if it's like a paranormal walking tour that they would do, but they would go to certain areas of the ship, and they would, they're given a story, and then they kind of move on and so on and so forth. So this was the first one that he took, and then if you scroll to the right, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. You can see. Is it a series? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's okay. So let me just back up, and we're looking. We have 4 people looking into a double door that's open. It's really dark. There's something on the left side that about kind of regular height, maybe 5'6", 5'7". If you look at the door frame, which is usually like 6 feet or so. On the left, and then there's something square kind of on the bottom that's there, and they're all looking towards that. Now on the second image, there's very jarring, okay, so we see more of kind of that reddish yellowish mass that's on the left at, say, head level, and you actually see what's coming about. More of the body is emerging. On the bottom, you can see kind of colorations and of legs. In the middle, it's kind of still dark, but you can see something definitely emerging. And then the third image is most striking because you see, it's very prominent that looks like a human. That looks, it's so blurred, like it's almost like where the image, if it was a person, is kind of moving or something, or maybe it's that's a crazy image. I mean, when you look at a lot of these, and
it could easily, people could say, well, that was a person, but according to her, there was no one there. They were
considering that the people in the foreground are blurry. It's obviously an early 2000s photo based on the wardrobe choices, okay. But like they are clear in comparison to these shapes.
Exactly. So this is what they claim to be the most active room. This was the boiler, and this white thing right here is the platform.
Oh, that's the platform. Okay, the first image, you guys look here. I'm just going to place it down here on the grass. It's almost like the person is kind of hiding. They're on one of the sides of the door. You know, these are double doors with the kind of the push bar type, and they're looking out at the audience, the people that are, the four people that looking towards that door, and it's all dark behind it. But you can see this person. You can actually see eyes. I mean, if you want to make out kind of the face, and there's kind of like what you would see is eyes and things. It's peering out, and then that shape or mass or person, however you want to call it, actually emerges more out towards the middle, and it's not hiding anymore. It's like it's making itself present, and none of these were seen. And then the third one, it's like she's just kind of watching everybody.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
So based on her analysis, I mean, it made sense because he or they look like they're wearing like a pea coat.
Yeah, it's really dark. It's black, definitely. And then there's kind of bluish or whitish. And then the person, it's not something, if there was nobody there when it was taken, that's very compelling. That's an interesting image.
Yeah,
I mean, I wish the resolution back then was,
so much better. Yeah. We all had that little Olympus, digital.
I mean, I wonder what were they talking about? They were talking about what with the boiler. So they all had that attention looking in that space.
Yes. So according to her, the tour guide was talking about the boiler room and the presences that were there. And she was telling me there's a presence of a man that is very nasty and negative, especially towards women.
Oh, I've heard this story. Okay. Yeah. I've heard
this. I can't find this story. And there is another presence. Someone else told me there's an
color too. Yeah. You guys, this isn't like a black and white kind of image of just like shadows, and this is a color form. I mean, it's captured obviously, but the image of the apparition, we could call it, is color. It's not, usually these things are black and white, or you see some shadow or shadow figure. I've seen shadow figures that.
But you're a photographer too, so you know the trick of lights and shadow.
Yes.
So
in reflection and film density or image density, pixelation, all these kind of things, and shutter, whatever the aperture of was set for the camera was an auto. I mean, all these things. But whoever was shooting it, if there was nobody there, and they went into that space, right? They went into that little.
They kind of went towards like the doorway. They weren't, I think, allowed to go in fully, but they were just like they kind of went a little past the threshold, and then they're like, okay, next stop. So. Yeah.
Did she mention, or they mentioned, did they see anything in the moment, or they discovered it when they were looking back through the photos?
So according to her friend goes home and uploads, back in the day, in the horse and buggy day, we had to upload everything on computer from the phone, and he realized, he's like, oh my God, like 1, 2, 3, and that is the way that you do photography.
I just wondered, because to me, not knowing anything, it does look like someone coming out around the corner, but then moving forward.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm not that surprised to hear that they said that there was some kind of negative energy. I just wondered if they had felt anything in the moment, because to me, it really, in the third one especially, looks like someone walking towards the group.
Yeah, did they
like out and around?
That's what I'd be interested if they no reaction because they didn't see or hear anything at the time.
Yeah. Probably when certain, I guess, energies are spoken about, because at that time the tour guide was talking about, the room. So I don't know if maybe that manifested something.
Whoever that spirit is obviously that's their space. If you look closely, you can see
A
mouth, but head, but also it looks like, if you compare it with the other ones, see that like arms or fist or something upraised. Like, see here? And then you look, further for the first one. There's nothing there. And then it emerges. See, it looks like kind of head and throat or something. And then you look at the next one. It's like more prominent. That, I don't know. I look at it something that.
He's holding his neck, you think?
Or just, it's almost like a defensive posture.
Yeah.
Stay out or something. Just like with your fists like clenched and raised, like a boxing kind of thing. Like your arms are up. That's how I look at it. But
That's so funny that you said that, because one of our listeners had mentioned this, that when he has visited the boiler room, he says that he had seen the same apparition, and it was very nefarious, very, very negative. Like, it was like he said that he made eye contact with this said, apparition, and just by the look, he ran out. So I don't know if this could be the same one, but, according to my neighbor, she felt that this was the most negative energy because there was a lot of women in the tour group. And this one is supposedly negative towards females.
Why be misogynistic in the afterlife? Like, you did it the whole time you were here. You're going to do it afterlife, too? Come on.
were they pushed or any kind of tapped or anything against it? Just more of a feeling. Yeah.
More of a feeling, but he's been very physical with other females. Like, people have felt pushed and felt pain.
Those
And
are some of the stories I've heard. Bill Murphy. We investigated many times with Bill Murphy. Remember the show Fact or Faked? Yeah. So I was invited to go on that show when they kicked off one of the guy that wore the tie, that just kind of looked back and forth. I'm kidding, but yeah, Bill and I are also friends from Shoreline days. So we would investigate, and we were there at the Queen Mary. I was doing an interview, and I've just had so many different encounters from early college days at Long Beach State, and then LiveSciFi, and it just I love the history, but then there's dark energies there. It's not just like John Pedar, who was the fireman, they call him fireman, in door 13. It got crushed. Maybe they were like doing a game where you go through the watertight doors and see who can make it last, and he got like basically the midsection of his body upright when the watertight door was closing, and that was in 1966. That's one of the famous ones of door 13, and that one of the the engine room, kind of that shaft alley. They call it shaft alley because there's big turbine shafts there, and that was. I didn't feel anything there particular, but there's a lot of obviously verified deaths and poisoning. Strychnine poisoning, one of the officers who drank poison.
yeah, that's what I thought it was too, because could it have been him, holding onto his neck?
Oh, right. It just something like that.
He drank something. It could have been, but I mean, it is still unknown. But I feel like this is pretty good. It's really interesting.
It actually should be downloaded and run it through some pro level image analysis to see if more detail can be brought out.
Yeah,
definitely. It's just looking at your iPhone and the Siri.
And what's really interesting is that he's not like a paranormal enthusiast or an investigator. He was just there, for...
Those are the best stories. Those are the best people because they're not really in that mindset. They're just completely reserved and just like open-minded.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he definitely caught something here. I feel like he captured something here. So where can we go from here? Should we go on a tour to visit Marilyn and Natalie Wood? Is that possible?
Sure.
All right, let's go for a walk then.
All right.
And what a way of synchronicity, Brice. Here is, what is this, Fanny Brice? Yeah. Tell us about your story that you had here real quickly.
God, it's such a long conversation, so I'll give you the very abridged version. It started because I'm following the Funny Girl revival right now is happening on Broadway, starring Beanie Feldman, and it's in previews right now, and people are being very critical because Beanie Feldman is arguably not, a Barbra Streisand level singer who is. But the counterpoint that I was bringing up to my roommate is there space in a modern Broadway-centric theater era, you can edit all this out, I'm so sorry, for the discovery of like Carol Channing, Carol Burnett-esque type talents who aren't triple threats but who are so enigmatic, who are so clearly full of star quality that it overcomes what we would currently consider like flaws. Like if you can't do like a double pirouette, you're never going to get out of the cattle call, right? So it's this idea of like, okay, can Beanie Feldman sing in the way that like a Shoshana Bean can, for example? No, of course not, but no one's expecting her to. She's actually trying to embody, because Fanny Brice is like the original vaudevillian funny woman. She was not considered beautiful at the time. She was not considered a great singer. She was just so charismatic. She basically was, if not the most famous person to ascend out of the vaudeville scene, certainly the most famous woman. And so it's like this legacy that she had in the entertainment industry for being so charismatic and so effervescent. And now we're like literally in this era where the revival of the show about her life is starring someone who is maybe more charismatic than like traditionally talented. And again, Beanie Feldman's deeply talented. She's just not like a belty diva-esque type singer. So that's like the gist of the conversation. So this is what we're talking about over breakfast, and then as we're walking by, there she is.
We were sitting literally a stone throw away from Fanny Brice.
The correct way, so it's fine.
We're gonna walk up to one of the most famous blondes who's laid to rest here. And of course, next to Hugh Hefner. All right, guys, so just to correct everyone, Hugh is not on top of Marilyn. It's actually Richard Poncher. He's actually right next to her. This is so crazy. She's like right here.
It's amazing to be in this space, isn't it? Right now, just to feel.
Yeah,
And they're side by side, yeah. Hugh's on the left, Marilyn's on the road.
yeah,
Right?
because a lot of people thought he was on top of her. I'm like, no.
Right, I heard that too, and it's actually fitting that they're side by side, not
Yeah.
the other way around.
And the guy that's on top of her, his plaque reads, "To the man who gave us everything and more, you're one in a million, Freddie." Freddie is definitely one in a million who got the opportunity to be on top of Marilyn.
1905 to 1986. So 86 he was interned here.
Wow.
Which is, yeah, I guess the family bought this probably forever. Years and years ago. Because Marilyn obviously was 1962. F is 2017.
Oh, look at this one over here. The quote, "You always had a joke to tell and never took a bad picture." I think I found, I like my quote. That's me.
Richard Poncher is on the right, and then Elizabeth Elsie is on the left. A life well lived. So we're celebrating
Both of their
Ponchers,
lives.
I guess you pronounce her name.
She's like, hey, at least I get to be on top of you.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something awesome.
How
You can tell
beautiful.
these have been here. The bottom one's been here forever.
Yeah.
Robert and Elizabeth Morrison in the bottom, and Genevieve Haney, looks like.
Yeah.
Beloved wife and mother, 1918, 1964. So kind of, yeah. And there's always fresh flowers in both, which is
It's,
nice.
obviously. Yes, forever. Oh, wow. It's so surreal to be in the presence of her resting place.
coin in the gap. There's a gap in between.
Oh,
the ships, and see
wow.
how these are set so they don't move, but I think at some time they actually moved or something. Or, I don't know if that was. And then this behind us
Norma.
is a little bench in remembrance of Marilyn Monro from her many fans. So that's kind of neat.
That's perfect. Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's such a small cemetery. Like, we just passed by so many people. We passed by Jack Lemmon, Fanny Brice, and Kirk Douglas. This is just so amazing. And where is our dear girl, Natalie Wood?
Natalie is over here.
Oh, she's in the middle.
Yeah. You want to walk over there?
Yeah. So honestly, guys, if you ever have a chance to visit Los Angeles and you want to visit the graves of Marilyn Monroe and all these famous stars, you can do so by traveling to Westwood Memorial. What did your mom communicate when she was in the process of organizing her services while working here for?
She said it was just a madhouse, obviously, with the press, and they were trying to keep, respectful, keep the family and keep it private, obviously. Mm-hmm. And you had people, as they do now these days, impersonating other people, trying to get access. Or so she said it was just a very, very private ceremony, and just for respecting the family and everything that they could do here for that.
That's so crazy. I can't even imagine how much of a zoo or circus it was here. Oh, look at Dorothy Stratten.
Playboy Playmate.
Oh my God.
So, 1980, and they've made a film, right?
Dorothy Stratten is here. She was the famous Playboy Playmate who
was murdered.
was murdered by her, was it her ex at the time? Her ex-lover?
Yeah, that's right. That
Yeah.
was her manager / lover.
Lover, and, it didn't end very well.
So sad.
Yeah, it was very sad. Yeah. You want to read it?
Yeah, sure.
Here.
Okay.
There you go.
If people bring so much courage to this world, the world has to kill them to break them. So of course it kills them. It kills the very good and the very gentle and the very brave impartially. If you're none of these, you can be sure that it will kill you too, but there will be no special hurry. We love you, DR, the initials DR. I wonder if that was one of the poems that she wrote or something, or I guess DR is a maybe a relative that did that.
Sure. I don't know if that "We Love You" DR could be Dorothy. We let as a reference to Dorothy, or I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know if that could have been one of her family members, or maybe the last person she was in a relationship with. She was in a relationship with a film director, before she had passed. And I know that really pissed off, her ex-manager / ex-lover.
It was her suicide.
It was, yeah.
There's some roses laid on her grave, which is fitting. Mm-hmm. We just had a lot of rain last night and wind and all that, but I'm glad they're still there.
Yeah.
So, poor Dorothy.
Oh, as it should be. Oh, wow. And just to let you know, just like LA, this cemetery is busy. It has a lot of fans coming in to greet and pay their respects to other stars. There's a service going on right now. There are other individuals looking for their own personal resting place. But there's still some stillness and tranquility within this space.
There's also Prince here, Prince Oliver van Aanholt, who's a legit prince. He was buried in 2016, so he has a princely. Not like.
Oh wow!
The other prince.
I was like, wait, what? So there's a prince that's buried here.
We'll just see here, 1938, and it has the Armenian, Russian.
The Russian
Orthodox
cross.
More than love, and she has some nice
fresh
roses.
flowers on her grave. Yeah. Wow.
There's another James Dean kind of connection with, Natalie is here, obviously, and then Louis Jourdan, who is an actor who was...
Wasn't that one of his best friends, or...?
He was in the play called The Immortalist, which was James Dean's second big play, Geraldine Page and Louis Jourdan. So that's another kind of James Dean connection.
That's so crazy. We always said, it's 6 degrees of separation somewhere here.
I went to university in Warsaw, which is out past Fort Wayne, and it's the next town after Manchester, so a lot of James Dean-esque billboards along that highway, especially. But
Patrick can tell you, you've gone to every single, I think his festival is there.
Yeah, I first went back when I was married, and it was 2020. No, I'm sorry, 2000 rather. That was my first time to Fairmount, and got to know the family. His actual cousin Mark, worked on German TV films back in 2006, doing a documentary on Rolf and Jimmy, and that was neat. We shot here in Hollywood, in Fairmount, and then New York, the Actors Studio. And that was I couldn't make New York because of work, but Dean is kind of another, racing and James Dean. That's kind of what got me into the whole James Dean thing, back then. So I know a lot of people, and
I know, if you really want to get to know James Dean and learn more of his life, you go to one of those festivals. There are people that knew everything from probably the type of probably, I don't know,
all the detail,
food he ate or jeans he wore.
They have a fans weekend in July. It's like a Jeopardy. They do a Jeopardy game of Dean, and people take a test to actually participate in it. For 30 seconds, you have to answer 10 or 15 pretty, they get tougher. So it kind of weeds out people, only the diehards. And it's just,
how much did James Dean weigh?
Right. Indiana's,
What was his shoe size? Oh,
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
wait, 8.5.
No,
I'm
it's small. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
He was a little petite.
That's something I don't know. I don't know that.
Aren't they all?
I just know the racing and the cars and the.
Well, Patrick, thank you so much for giving us a small tour of this very sequestered, beautiful cemetery of Westwood Village.
You're very welcome, and it's great meeting you guys and kind of swapping stories and.
Hopefully, we get to investigate together. That's the one.
Next step, yes.
And hopefully, Brice will join us.
I mean, maybe my ghost will be there. It'll be fine.
Where can people find you, Patrick? Where, like, your videos and your investigations?
Investigations, LiveSciFi on YouTube, and also just my Instagram. It's Pattoo, Pattoo VVMC, which is my bestowed. I have a whole sleeve, a lot of tattoos, so that I became Pattoo in our club. Patrick and Tattoo. That's what Pattoo is. Yeah, it's not like Fantasy Island or whatever that dude was. It was like, so Instagram, Pattoo, VVMC, Venice Vintage Motorcycle Club, and just YouTube on LiveSciFi.
Yes, you heard it there, guys. If you want to see more investigations, learn more about Patrick, you can follow him on those social medias and definitely watch his videos on YouTube. So thank you guys for joining us on this quick little tour of Westwood Village Cemetery Memorial Park. If you're ever in the area, come by and say hi to a couple of these old stars. They're here waiting for you. And of course, Marilyn. All right, guys. Always remember to say Hollyweird. Bye.
Bye. That's what you guys do.
Another big thank you to Patrick Langdon. Please feel free to follow him, guys. Follow his adventures. You could find him at Pattoo VVMC on Instagram. And if you love Hollyweird Paranormal Podcast, you can definitely stalk us and follow us on our social medias. You could follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Hollyweird Paranormal, and on Twitter at HWP Podcast. Have a scary story you're dying to share with us, no pun intended. You can send it our way to hollyweirdparanormal@gmail.com. We love to receive them and save them for our Listener's Tales episode. And if you love Hollyweird Paranormal even more and you want to support this Hollyweird Paranormal train, you can do so by heading on over to www.patreon.com/Hollyweird Paranormal. There you can actually join our Patreon for as little as $1 per month, or you could donate a little more for however long you wish to donate. A little does go a long way, and you'll be gifted in so many wonderful things. You'll get access to our secret podcast of Saturday Night Ghost Club, where we collect ghost stories from people who are our friends, people off the street, our nail techs, our barbers, anyone who is willing to share their paranormal experience, and you get access to all those episodes. You'll also be gifted in pins, stickers, magnets, coasters, and even keychains with our logos as a thank you for your support. You can also follow us on our website, www.hollyweirdparanormal.com. You could read our bios and check out our other links and other past episodes and seasons. So friends, if you have a little time on your hands and you haven't done so, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review us. A 5-star review. It helps us indie podcasts become a little more visible indeed. So friends, take care, stay well, and most of all, stay Hollyweird. And if you're ever in the area, you might be able to see one of us at the Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery. Mostly me, maybe not so much Brice, but you never know. Take care, friends, and stay Hollyweird.